So let's talk about the big story of the day, which is government shutdown day. Happy Thursday. It is September 30th. The federal government is going to run out of money at midnight tonight, but Congress is on a path to try to avert a shutdown for at least another 2 months. So kicking the can down till December. We'll get to that breaking news in just a moment.
It's right around Christmas.
Yeah, just in time for Christmas. I don't know why they do this to themselves, because they love to take the month of December off for the holidays, and then they end up like running up until like Christmas Eve on another debt ceiling or another government shutdown vote that they have to get.
To be fair, they're not doing it to themselves; they're doing it to us.
Mm-hmm. True, but they like to be out of town, and they have to be stuck in town dealing with this stuff. So you'd think that they would plan their vacations a little bit better. It's also today is Infrastructure Day. The day on which the House is scheduled to take up the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Roads and Bridges bill. This is huge for President Joe Biden, for Speaker Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. They're going to face some huge political choices over the next few hours. Nancy Pelosi was quoted as saying last night, I think she said, how are things going? She said, we're taking it hour by hour. So right now, things are going to either anger either the moderates or the progressive wing of the party, or even both. It's all up in the air right now. Let's, though, start with the government shutdown, because this is the big story of the day. Today is going to be a bit of a drag. It's going to be one of these kinds of days, something like always goes wrong or it takes longer than expected. You know, if you follow Washington for any length of time, it's one of those days. So deep breaths, everyone. We're going to get through this. We'll figure this out. We'll see what happens, but today is going to be a very fluid day. Chuck Schumer has scheduled 5 votes beginning at 10:30 a.m. this morning. So in just a little over an hour from now, Chuck Schumer is going to start this voting process. This is the start of a process to try to avert a government shutdown. Congressional leaders and the White House have agreed to a verbal stopgap spending bill that will fund federal agencies through December 3rd. There's tens of billions of dollars in additional money for disaster relief, as well as aid for the wave of Afghan refugees evacuated during the U.S. withdrawal. By the way, just on that piece, they're putting about $6 billion just to handle the Afghan refugee crisis, which I'm all for, right? We screwed up their country for 20 years. We should take care of these people. Okay, yes, I'm all for that. But haven't we already spent enough money? And isn't there already enough money sitting in a defense budget somewhere that we could reallocate to help take care of our war footprint? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, why don't we just pull it out of the Israeli fund? Because they don't need it.
Right. Instead of the money, the 20 billion, 40 billion that we send to Israel, the richest industrialized countries in the world.
Who has Medicare for all, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And an Iron Dome that does not need any additional funding of, defense spending. Richest country, one of the richest countries in the world. But they need our money. They need our money. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. We need an additional $6 billion that you're going to spend.
Well, and here's the thing. I feel for those people as well. I really do, because we did mess them up. We did. That's what we did. But we still haven't recovered in this country, and we can't get an ounce of help. Yet they talk about this stuff, and this stuff doesn't get filibustered and kick the can down the road. When it's this kind of stuff, they get the money almost immediately, while we still sit here and try to fight for scraps. Like our money is going to help other countries more than it helps our own.
I agree, but what do we do to these people? We destroyed their country. Now the Taliban has taken over. We knew that this was going to happen. 4 presidents, basically dropped the ball on this.
Right, but at what point do you actually sit there and be like, look, we don't have the money. Like, okay, yeah, we can help them, but let's just print $6 billion.
Let's stop kidding ourselves, though. We have the money. Right, well, that's the thing. It's like we have the money. It's just they continue to waste it on war and other meaningless garbage. Like, I would be. So I agree with you. I would agree. I would go along with, hey, we're going to spend $6 billion helping these Afghan refugees, but we're going to take it from this area. We're also going to cut the fat in this area. We're going to reduce our war budget, and we're going to pull some of that money. Then there wouldn't be a problem. Then you wouldn't have a problem with this, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think what they should do is like any money that's allocated overseas, that should be reciprocated and allocated here. So it's like, okay, we'll give you a $750 billion war budget, but then we want a $750 UBI budget here for some U.S. citizens.
Oh, right. Something on parallel, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. So
it'll never happen. But
you can go back to smoking crack or whatever.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I would love. Hey, this is the new rule in Washington. We're going to spend $750 billion a year on war. We have to equal that. There has to be like a company matching program so that we have to also spend $750 billion on Americans to make sure that we have prescription drug costs that are really, really cheap, and Medicare for all, and elder care, and great education where our kids aren't eating. Did you see that story last week out of New Jersey where these kids are eating they're eating like old food for lunches in their school? It was ridiculous. And we showed our kids. We're like, my God, we're not in New Jersey right now. These are public school lunches. Like, this is what kids are eating. It's like old food. It's like food that had been sitting in a refrigerator, and this is what they're routinely being served. Like, come on, man. This is America. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what. That'd be one good way to get the budget cut, the military budget cut. As soon as they found out we were going to get matched, they'd be like, "Oh, we can't give them that much." So,
right? No, we go back on what we were going to say. We were going to help Americans. Okay, we'll take $100 billion. We won't take as much this time. So here's Senator Chuck Schumer on the floor talking about this breakneck issue right at the last minute, up to the last minute government shutdown. Let's listen.
Keeping the government open and preventing a default is vital to our country's future, and we'll be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week.
Okay, great. So what does that mean? Senate Republicans, though, I mean, if we can get this vote this afternoon, 10:30, we've got about an hour until he starts to put up a series of these votes. There's going to be a couple of things that Republicans are going to try to shoehorn in here, but there's likely to be bipartisan support. They need 60 votes on all of this. But meanwhile, Senate Republicans are still playing a game of chicken with a government shutdown and a possible default on federal debt. That continues today. If the stopgap funding bill isn't passed by the end of today, the government will shut down. And Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned Congress yesterday that if the federal debt limit isn't increased, the government will be all out of money to pay its bills on October 18th. So we just had Monday. Monday, the Senate Republicans blocked a bill that would have averted both crises. And then again, yesterday, they also blocked it. So Republicans are really helpful right now.
Wait a minute. We're going to run out of money to fund everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then how are we going to fund $6 billion for Afghanistan refugees?
Well, that's what part of this negotiation is today. That's what these funding bills are set up today, the stopgap measure to keep it open for 3 more months. So,
so then how much are we getting then? So that sounds like they're going to work on that money.
You won't get anything, but Afghan
the American
refugees
people
will get. No. It's just going to be to keep government agencies open. So if you want to get you want to get, you want to go to a national park, or you want to get, Veterans Affairs offices open or anything like that. So that stuff will remain open during a pandemic. You're not going to get anything other than your wonderful government services.
Oh,
Sorry. The shutdown is probably the easier thing to avoid right now. All Democrats have to do is remove a provision that suspends the debt limit, and enough Republicans in the Senate will vote for the bill. So this continuing resolution that Schumer's talking about funding is for education, health, housing, and public safety programs through December. So, I mean, it does have a little bit for you in there. I mean, obviously critical education funding. It does also cover SNAP benefits. And it also covers school lunch programs for needy children in the country, and then housing-related issues and public safety programs through December 3rd. So that's all in this during a pandemic. It's going to be interesting to see on the housing front, though, because we're literally almost at the deadline now for the federal moratorium on evictions. I haven't seen any mainstream media coverage on that. Have you? I haven't seen any talk of the eviction moratorium. That's the Biden extension. It's going to run out here in the next few days.
Didn't you get the memo, though, Clayton? The pandemic is over.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot.
Yeah. No, and it's all right. I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Sorry, I was out with COVID last week, so I didn't get the memo that the pandemic is over. God, this nose is itchy. I need like sandpaper. Can somebody give me some sandpaper? I feel like
That's your lingering. That's your COVID.
that's my long COVID.
Yeah.
You want to see my long COVID? I'll try that with my wife later. See if she goes for it. So that's where we are on the government shutdown piece of this. So we've got about an hour to see if Schumer can pull a hat out of his rabbit. We'll see. And that's going to be the easier part. Okay, so that first piece is the easier part, is the government shutdown piece. The whole stimulus package we're going to get to next. So that's part of the government shutdown stimulus package. I didn't even make a separate graphic because it's all part of it. All right, let's talk about the stimulus now. So stimulus really is, I guess tied to all of this craziness right now with the government shutdown. But really we need to kind of separate it as well, because what happens with this bipartisan infrastructure bill, it all comes down to today. We're supposed to have a vote on this today. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill, roads and bridges bill, that whole thing, TSA bill, like the big dry hump for big Wall Street, right? Someone said, don't say wet kiss anymore. So we're just saying dry hump.
Yes.
The big dry hump for Wall Street. No wonder all of these big corporations are so excited about it, because they get all of this money. They're super happy about it. And no wonder a lot of these corporate Democrats have been pushing to just pass this part of it. Just pass this part, like Gottheimer out of New Jersey. I mean, he's been like leading the charge on this, these corporate Democrats who just want us to pass the roads and bridges bill because we can't wait, is what they're telling us. We can't wait. Now, look, I know America's crumbling, right? But I think we could wait a few more days to make sure that we can tie all of this together with the $3.5 trillion plan, don't you? Like, this bridge isn't going to collapse right this second, right? I mean, so
Yeah,
what
it
is the
hasn't collapsed
motivation?
in like 10 years, so it's not going to collapse now.
So what do you think the motivation is for this Gottheimer, New Jersey? I mean, of course, they want this money to go to these Wall Street, donors. They want all this money to go to fossil fuel companies and otherwise. It's a joke. No wonder they're so ebullient about this infrastructure bill, because it's just a big pile of money for Wall Street and all of their corporate donors. Now, progressives, if you'll remember, yesterday we reported what Bernie Sanders was saying was, hold firm. Do not allow this infrastructure bill to go through. Do not allow this to go through, because we won't get what we want. If we let this go through, we are going to be screwed. This is what Bernie Sanders said yesterday. I bring it back up here. I strongly urge my House colleagues to vote against the bipartisan infrastructure bill until Congress passes a strong reconciliation bill. So, where are we at today on the infrastructure bill? Well, Speaker Pelosi went to the White House yesterday with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to talk to President Biden. The backdrop here is that the bipartisan infrastructure bill is in deep trouble. Deep trouble. There's no other way to put it. It's in peril. And it seems exceedingly unlikely that the House will be able to pass the infrastructure bill today, due to widespread discontent on the left over how this whole process is going. So that's where we are right now. Progressives are winning right now. I mean, I'm excited about this as a progressive. It looks like they're holding the line. We were worried that they were going to cave, right? And it looks like progressives are holding the line right now. So you've got AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren all saying, hey, we had a deal. Remember? We had a deal a few months ago where we outlined the framework. We're not voting on this other piece of infrastructure until that $3.5 trillion plan is part of this. We want to make sure that climate is in there, child tax credits, all of those things are taken care of. We're not voting on
wage, Medicare for all.
Medicare for all. Not in there, but nice try. I think I wasn't paying attention.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it's not in there, but at least some good things are in there. A lot of good things are in there. And so, Bernie Sanders is right, and people are listening to him. He spent time on the phone calling people saying, do not vote on this. So, we covered this at the time this deal was cut. It was a mistake for moderates to accept it because progressives were going to end up using it to their advantage. And guess what? Here we are. Progressives are using it to their advantage. In essence, progressives don't trust Senator Joe Manchin, and they don't trust Kyrsten Sinema. They don't think that, hey, if we go along with just passing this $1 trillion thing, you're going to come along and allow us to pass the gigantic $3.5 trillion social safety net program quickly. So they don't trust them. Why should they trust them? Manchin and Sinema are miles apart from progressives on a whole host of priorities. Manchin and Sinema are acting on their own timetable right now. They're not progressives, especially Manchin. I mean, I would say especially Sinema, also, right? And they have completely different incentives than the left does right now. They're focused on helping fossil fuel companies. We reported yesterday on Kyrsten Sinema, taking money from these big donors, taking money from pharmaceutical companies, right? I mean, she doesn't care about you. Do you think for a second she cares about you?
You don't buy her Coach bags and nice fancy things.
No, I don't. And then Manchin reiterated his, for months, Sanders and Manchin, along with Sinema, have been at odds over the internal debate over the size of the prospective package. Sanders initially had floated a $6 trillion package. They got it down to 3.5. Manchin said yesterday he reiterated his opposition to spending what Sanders wants by releasing a statement saying, I can't support a $3.5 trillion more in spending when we already have spent $5.4 trillion since last March. At some point, all of us, regardless of party, must ask the simple question, how much is enough? Make no mistake about it, Manchin, Joe Manchin, if that is your real name. It's not about the price tag. It's about the tax provisions in this bill, which would increase taxes for businesses. That's it. That's the only reason you oppose this, because these big companies have funneled enough money to you, and they're telling you that we don't want this bill because we'll have to pay more in taxes. Bottom line, full stop. You don't give a rat's behind about how much this thing costs, because you have no problem voting before to funnel trillions of dollars to your Wall Street buddies. But now there's an infrastructure bill that actually would help your fellow West Virginians and other Americans, and now you're concerned about the price tag. BS.
Like, this man does not talk to his constituents. I mean, he's in one of the hardest hit states during this whole thing. He doesn't care about them.
No. One of the poorest states in the country, an area I used to live in. I love West Virginia. I love the people of West Virginia.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful state. And they are routinely screwed by Washington and their politicians who continue. The only reason they get elected is because they take money from these big coal companies and fossil fuel companies and energy companies and other things. That's how they make it. I think it was
90% of renters in that area were not able to pay their rent at some point during the pandemic. 90%.
Yeah, Joe, your people of West Virginia are doing great. Yeah. So you're really concerned about the overall cost and the impact on inflation. You're really concerned about that. Not the $120 billion a month that the Fed funnels to Wall Street. You don't care about that, but suddenly now you care about it as it's going to help people in your state. So progressives have even more to think about, and they've solidified their opposition to this infrastructure bill. Good for them. So at this hour, it looks like progressives are drawing a line in the sand. And make no mistake about it, this $1 trillion package is, again, a big handout to Wall Street. And again, as one senator pointed out, his electric bus program had to be shifted so that a huge portion of the money that was set aside in this infrastructure bill would go to fossil fuel buses. Like, the whole point was that it was an electric bus program for electric buses. And these Republicans managed to get in there that it needed to be gas-guzzling buses as well. Because, God, we just can't have anything clean. We got to have it half dirty, That's what this bill is. That's what this infrastructure bill is. And meanwhile, we have people like Kyrsten Sinema who could face a primary, according to data this morning. or according to reporting this morning, Kyrsten Sinema could be, finally, group of Arizona Democrats backed by a network of deep-pocketed donors is laying the groundwork for a primary challenge to Sinema. Sinema, a moderate Democrat, stop calling her a moderate, she's a conservative, who is up for re-election in 2024, is at the center of a standoff right now.
Quit calling her a Democrat.
Right. Yeah. The new primary Sinema PAC does not plan to support a particular primary challenger. Instead, it's going to fund local groups to pressure Sinema and help build the support and infrastructure for an eventual candidate, they say. Sinema has proven time and time again, they say, that she doesn't care. She doesn't share these values. So it's time to organize and replace her with someone that does. Climate change, voting rights, immigration reform, other issues. They are disappointed that she's not done more on those issues. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen with Joe Manchin. I mean, he may even not run for re-election. So at this point, who knows who's going to step in his stead. But that's where we stand at this hour. Right now, we'll see if Manchin's argument holds strong, that we're not going to spend any money. We're not going to expand the amount of money we spend on this $3.5 trillion. That's too much. Democrats are saying, fine, you won't do that. Then we're not voting. Progressives are saying, we're not going to vote for the $1 trillion plan. And we'll see what happens later this afternoon. But today, that vote's supposed to happen. So I'm telling you what, folks, if that vote doesn't happen today, progressives have won round one of this battle, which is fantastic. That means that they grew a pair, they finally got together and organized, stood strong, and they didn't bow to pressure. So we'll see. We'll bring you that story first thing in the morning tomorrow. We'll see how things all shake out on this regard.
Pear is actually my favorite fruit.
Pears are?
Mm-hmm. So if they grow a pear, I wouldn't mind having it.
I don't think you want to eat the pears they're growing right now.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.